From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Brief. This morning, HBO announced that it has officially, digitally, removed the infamous Starbucks cup from the most recent episode of Game of Thrones. Now, there's not going to be any Game of Thrones spoilers, so you're safe here, unless there's not, just trust me on it. But in case you've been living under a rock and you didn't hear about it, Starbucks scored a massive product placement over the weekend. Chillin' with the mother of dragons. Was it a Starbucks cup? Was it not a Starbucks cup? Well, that doesn't even matter anymore because it looked enough like a Starbucks cup to automatically fuse the brand into our mind with Daenerys Stormborn, mother of dragons and drinker of Starbucks. Which means big money for Starbucks. This is Super Bowl-sized ad money we're talking about. The Battle of Winterfell episode from the prior week drew 17.8 million views across all platforms, making it the most watched HBO episode ever. Now that's a lot of eyes. Since the cup stands out so much, it makes it worth more. This is like a multi-million-dollar PR stunt. Eric Smallwood, the president of Apex Marketing Group, Inc., who's kind of the authority on the situation because he specializes in advertising and branding services. He valued this cup mistake at more than $11.6 million as of 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time today. And it keeps rising. He got that number by factoring in the TV and the radio coverage, the digital news coverage, and the social media chatter. Now, fans of Game of Thrones are pissed. They feel like the showrunners have let them down. They spend 2 years with this thing in post, and no one catches that? Sort of hard to believe, isn't it? Is it all some sort of a big sellout conspiracy? Starbucks responded by saying, "This was a mistake. This is something that someone missed on set, and that they certainly should have caught it." Now, how many eyes watched that down in post? And they really want us to believe that no one saw that Starbucks cup in that scene. Who's going to get fired for that QC mistake, huh? Or was it even a mistake at all? Maybe it was painted into the scene. They could digitally add that cup as some sort of a partnership with Starbucks, a super secret corporate inside sponsorship, secret in plain sight. Now, there's one way that HBO could prove to me, and I'm sure every fan out there of Game of Thrones, that this was not a sponsorship. You find the last one that signed off on that scene, and you make them do the Cersei walk of shame. Short of that, and I don't believe you. Well, we started the show with a story about Starbucks and Game of Thrones because I really hate to be a downer. And the news is just not good. In fact, it doesn't get much worse. Scientists this week said that extinction is looming over 1 million species of plants and animals, and it's because of people. This report is the United Nations' first comprehensive report on biodiversity, and it is a huge bummer. Species loss is accelerating to tens to hundreds of times the faster than the rate's ever been in the past. They're warning that we might be in the middle of a slow-motion 6th Great Extinction Crisis. 5 times in the past, Earth has undergone mass extinctions where much of the life on Earth just blanked out. Meanwhile, this week, the United States pressured the Arctic Council out of making a joint statement about climate change. And that joint statement was supposed to be today. And it's the first time since its formation in 1996 that the Council had been unable to issue a joint declaration spelling out its priorities for things such as keeping us from extinction. The Arctic is heating up far faster than the world average because of rising greenhouse gas emissions. And here we are, insisting not to mention the latest science on climate change, or the Paris Agreement. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo focused much of his speech at the Arctic Conference on concerns about expanding influence in the Arctic region. It sounds like he's playing Game of Thrones up there, and we should be focusing on the White Walkers, not battling each other. Greenhouse gases are the White Walkers. 4 B-52 bombers are being deployed to the Middle East in response to what the administration officials said earlier this week are threats of a possible attack by Iran. White House National Security Advisor and author of book This Russia Thing, John Bolton, said on Sunday that the U.S. was deploying a bomber task force to an area in the Middle East. Bolton said the movement was in response to a number of troubling and escalatory indications and warnings. He didn't provide any specific details, but did say that the U.S. wants to send a clear and unmistakable message to Iran that unrelenting force would meet any attack on U.S. interests or those of its allies. And this is a John Bolton quote coming right at you. The United States is not seeking war with the Iranian regime, but we're fully prepared to respond to any attack, whether by proxy or the Islamic Slave Revolutionary Guard Corps or regular Iranian forces. Well, that's what he said. That's what he said. The decision to order the deployment was made on Sunday. It was approved by Acting Defense Secretary Patrick M. Shanahan. Bombers are flying east, and Bolton is out there saying, "I dare you mofos to blink. I dare you." Iran is saying that the Iran deal is kaput. Let's all take a moment here for thoughts and prayers and peace and prosperity on earth, please. Could I please just choose to die by climate change? I'd rather that.